So we recently established Global Nurses United, and I'm going to just click again. This is a picture of all the different leaders who are part of our Global Nurses United. And then these are our sister nursing unions. And the organization, it's sort of like a federation of union, was formed to fight against the harmful effects of austerity measures globally, privatization, and cuts in healthcare services that put both people and communities at risk. We had a global day of action last September 17th. This is our American nurses in New York City. This is our sister nursing union in South Korea, Dominican Republic, Canada, the Philippines, and Australia. Again, I just wanted to show you our theatrics as activism. May 18th of 2012, thousands of nurses and other protesters marched 2 miles through the streets of downtown Chicago and descended on Chicago's Dealey Plaza. And this was our reconstructed site of Camp David. Some of you may know that this was supposed to be the site of the G8 summit. They were so intimidated, the world leaders were so intimidated by our planned protest because we had told them to expect about 5,000 people, that they moved it from Chicago to Camp David. So then we decided that we were going to make fun of them. So this is us making fun of, that's Angela Merkel, you can see there, our fake Angela Merkel. So we also called on world leaders to adopt a national and international financial transaction tax. We changed the name of the financial transaction tax because our nurses were having a difficult time sort of understanding what it is. It's basically a tax on Wall Street speculation, on derivatives, and we estimate that it would raise about $350 billion a year that could be used to put money into social programs. Well, we changed it, and I know women's studies folks aren't going to like this too much, but you got to appreciate the gender bending of this photo. We changed it to the Robin Hood tax, so that our nurses, the denotation to the Robin Hood tax, so that our nurses could sort of conceptually grasp that this was about, taking money from the most economically powerful, the 1% of the 1%, and bringing it down to communities that really actually need it. The problem is that many of our nurses don't understand. It's not really just about taxing the rich. It's about taxing these derivatives. It's about taxing Wall Street. It's what we call a non-reformist reform. We're trying to get into the rifts and cracks of Wall Street gambling and speculation and bring that money back to the people. Because of course we're the ones being blamed, right, for the financial fallout. It's our fault that we overspent, and it's our fault that we're foreclosing, and we're saying no, it's not the people's fault. It's the people at the very top. In November 2011, this is just one photo, our nurse leaders attended the G20 protests in France, and this was a part of beginning to organize for Global Nurses United. And this is important because it was after this summit that our education program began thinking about ways to creatively fill a knowledge void for our nurses. And that's why we came to Rutgers. At this summit, our nurses were not fully prepared to address the global implications of calling for a financial transaction tax. What our nurses learned, and this is unsurprising to you, is that countries in the global south were hesitant to back national financial transaction taxes or financial transaction taxes at the individual country level without a global FTT or without a staunch commitment from the global north to funnel large portions of that revenue with no strings attached into the global south. The governments of many third world countries maintained that a global redistribution of resources needed to take place before most third world countries would be in a position to redistribute resources internally through a national financial transaction tax. So the point is, for the first time, some of our nurses had to reconcile a very harsh reality. Newfound knowledge of the disproportionate economic advantage global capitalism gives to countries in the global north. Many of them consciously, for the first time, faced imperialism of global capitalism at these G20 protests. They had to reconcile this newfound awareness of imperialism with their own experiential knowledge of the deep economic, social, and political inequalities in our own country, the third world in the West, as Mohanty calls it. But they lacked the appropriate conceptual tools for this reconciliation. which marked really their irreversible transition from political actors on a national stage to political actors on a global stage. So, and this is just a list of our courses. It's going to move up. You'll see it in just a second. With the help of Women's and Gender Studies, we designed the certificate program in Women's Global Health Leadership to educate nurses to develop a critique of imperialism by grounding it in something many of them have expertise and political and intellectual interest in, which is global health, of course. So our aim in working with Women's and Gender Studies Department at Rutgers is to continue building the online certificate program, is not simply to enhance the political and conceptual field of potential for our nurses. We hope that Rutgers students with intellectual, emotional, and political investments in social justice knowledge projects see how our nurses use feminist theory and scholarship to devise political tactics, strategies, and a vision for change within their hospital facilities and within society at large. The single most important thing that I have learned since leaving an academic position for an activist one is that the theory-praxis split, yes, that pesky split, we wasted hours, no, I shouldn't say wasted, we spent hours fighting about in graduate seminars wherein those on the side of praxis were in the moral ontological right, and those on the side of theory were in the epistemological right, is a discursive fiction. Of course, this is in itself the subject of a totally different talk, but in ways that are not always predictable, and certainly in ways that will break our preconceived notions for how theory should be used to imagine and do activism. Nurses take what they learn in these online classes and grow the scale of their patient advocacy beyond the bedside, beyond anything they've ever imagined for themselves at the start of their career. And yet they usually come out of the class saying that it reconnected them to why they went into nursing in the first place.